The Heat are running it back, guys. Pat Riley putting the finishing touches on next year's roster, and it looks a lot like this past year's with one big exception.
Yo, Heat Nation, I'm as geeked as you guys, man. I'm happy to be back home.
James Johnson happy to be home with the Heat. The moment Gordon Hayward chose Boston, the Heat moved quickly to Plan B. In this case, Plan Bunny. This picture from an Easter party after the season telling the tale. We'll start with Johnson, who found a career renaissance in Miami. Pat Riley calls the signing of Johnson one of his happiest, saying that JJ epitomizes everything the Heat is about. Johnson dedicated himself to getting in the best shape of his life, and it showed on the floor. He posted career highs in points, rebounds, assists, and games played. At a reported 4 years and $60 million, the contract numbers may seem high for a 30-year-old, but Johnson is a young 30, only once averaging more than 26 minutes a game before last season. Another player who's found a home in Miami, Dion Waiters.
I know I took care of what I was supposed to take care of. I did what I had to do.
For Waiters, talent has never been the question, but at 25 years old and in his 5th NBA season, everything seemed to come together. As Riley pointed out, Waiters was fearless about taking the last shot, and the Heat were clearly better with him than without him. 28 and 19 with, 13 and 22 without. While those deals were expected, the signing of Kelly Olynyk was a shocker, at least initially. Why would the Heat give a reported 4-year, $50 million deal to Olynyk when they already have Hassan Whiteside? Simple. He's a much different player.
He's a great player, you know. He's a little bit underviewed because he looked like a surfer.
Olynyk can shoot the three-pointer very well for a big man, which means he can play with Whiteside without clogging up the lane on offense. But he's also versatile enough and a good enough rebounder to man the paint by himself with Whiteside out of the game. What he's best known for, though, is getting under opponents' skin, something he did to Whiteside, leading to this incident and suspension of the Heat big man 2 years ago. Miami also brings back Wayne Ellington, giving them some much-needed shooting off the bench. Heat players and coaches said after the season they felt this team could compete for a championship.
I definitely think we can definitely be a top 4 team in the East. I just think we could be special. At the end of the day, I think we could be special, especially keeping most of the guys together.
Now they'll get their chance. Don't call it Plan B, call it Plan Bunny. Really, I was just happy everybody came back so we could bring that picture back.
We just wanted the bunnies. And when they took that picture and Mickey put it on his Instagram on social media, you knew we would have fun with it, but you also knew that they would really try to bring those guys back. And Clay, they did, and call it the bunny plan, whatever it may be. And we talked so much about whales over the last month because of what Pat Riley said a couple of years ago. Look, I'm not sure that Gordon Hayward was the whale because you mentioned a few months ago, it's hard to classify whales, you know, when you got LeBron and Durant and guys like that. Gordon Hayward would have been a heck of an addition, but to me, falling back on a Dion Waiters at his age and his productivity last year when he was healthy isn't a bad thing.
25 years old, and I think the thing that's really interesting when you get into all of these advanced metrics and all that, he and Goran Dragic were 2 of the top 6 guys in the league at driving. Dion, there is another ceiling that he can get to as far as finishing goes.
Yeah, the and one screams would be better when you actually make it.
But get to the free throw line, start making the free throws, and more importantly, they're getting space for their teammates and getting open three-pointers. When he went out, that went away. You only had one of those guys, so there's a reason why he was a priority. There's a reason why he fit in so well with Dragic and the rest of that lineup. Just hit the open threes now is a great addition.
And I look at the price, you know, because everybody talks about money and the market value and what it means and the 50, 52 million, whatever the number ends up being. I mean, to me, he is worth it. I mean, a guy you said at 25 with his ability, it's not a guy you just grab in free agency so easily. And I think people get caught up in his past, but what he did with the Heat last year moving forward, same story for James Johnson. Now, he got the bigger number contract-wise, around $60 million. But I think JJ, he became, and I know people find it cliche, that Heat lifer culture guy. He bought into it 100%. And it would be no different than if you go and you find a gym that you train at or you do a diet that you train and you change your body and life around and it changes you for the better in many ways, including financially, you're going to swear by it. And JJ swears by the Heat system. He buys into it. This was a move the Heat had to make, whether they got Hayward or not. Had to keep JJ.
My favorite story about all this, you mentioned the gym. I was on the conference call with JJ after they announced the signing on Friday night, and somebody asked him towards the end of the call, hey, you're getting a lot of money. What's your first purchase going to be? What do you think he said?
That's a good question. What would it be? I don't know.
He said, I want to buy exercise bikes and a treadmill to put in my house because, and he said, because I dedicated myself to getting my body in shape. It got me this much good. I want to get in even better shape and I want to do better. That's what you want to hear. When a guy gets a 4-year reported $60 million contract, you want to hear that he is now motivated to work harder. JJ has the greatest attitude about it. He's ready to get going.
And the way the Heat system works, we heard the same things and the same whispers when Hassan got his $98 million. Anyone talking about Hassan's work ethic and the way he puts together the work in the gym? It's not an issue, and I don't think it'll be an issue with Dion or JJ. Now, Kelly Olynyk, this is the one that came out of nowhere. I'm not going to lie. We were breaking down whether it be Hayward. We talked about Rudy Gay. Here's a guy who had a spectacular playoff performance in a game, a clinching game for the Celtics during the postseason. A guy that I think is the guy you love to hate. But Clay, even though after all the shock sunk in, he's also a guy you love to have in your team because he does a lot of little things right. He gets under people's skin. And I think this is actually a good move.
You love him when he's your teammate. When he's on any one of the 29 other teams, yeah, there's different feelings about him. I think it's interesting because the initial thought is, oh, well, you gave Hassan $98 million. Why are you giving $50 million to another center? They're two completely different players, and they can be complementary.
He can play the four, no
100%.
doubt.
And then when Whiteside gets into foul trouble, he can come in and be that backup center, which, oh, by the way, when Willie Reed is going to leave, which is going to happen now, you've got a guy who can essentially fill a bunch of roles. And you know the Heat love that positionless basketball. They want guys who can be versatile, and Olynyk is that.
I see Eric Spoelstra right now at home looking at his notes and thinking of the number of possibilities. He could go big, he could go small, he could go mix, he could go shooters, he can run. You know, the space you talked about in your story. Eric Spoelstra has limitless possibilities with these guys. I think Olynyk fills that kind of role because of his ability to play the 4 and the 5.